All right, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone in this room and everyone at home, in the office, streaming us live, everyone who's tuning in. Thank you so much as we gather here to talk about something that's very close to the hearts of Astro employees in conjunction with Earth Day, as we talk about the environment and what we can do to lessen our impact on the environment. And joining me on this stage, is a lineup of panelists, a diverse range of panelists really, but all really share a common goal and a common objective in reducing our impact on the environment, and are here to share some ideas about what we can do, not just as individuals, but as companies, as a corporation as a whole, to really talk about the shared objective in lessening our impact on the environment and what we can do to help make this planet a better place together. So before we start, I want to give the opportunity to our panelists to introduce themselves and share a little bit about what you do for the environment. If we can start with you.
Thank you, Nala. Hi everybody, my name is Zara Pang. I'm a Sustainable Economy Lead at WWF Malaysia. So at WWF Malaysia, we're a conservation NGO. What we do is we focus on species conservation, we focus on ecosystem conservation, so marine and forest conservation as well. We look at climate change, we work on education and awareness, and we also work with businesses and markets as well on the environment and climate change.
All right, thank you. And to your right, we have Bex.
Yes, that's right. And thank you. I'm Bex, like the plastic bags. I'm from Eka. Well, basically, I'm from Langkawi. I'm KL, but we moved to Langkawi 9 years ago. Our avocation is more about upcycling workshops and in arts and crafts. So we are very into converting things organically, processing things organically. So we don't use really much machineries to be converting raw materials to sustainable fashion goods. So we turn plastic bags, plastic bottles to bags, to clothing, apparels and shoes. So our avocation is more about arts and craft and how we are able to advocate fun ways of upcycling in a very organic manner. So that's what our avocation is all about with the community. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Bex and Zara. Maybe some of the new faces, but I believe Ewan is a very familiar face here. So we know who you are, but what do you do for the environment, Ewan, if you can share?
I'm looking around again, but there's three faces here that don't know me. So I'm Ewan, as you know, I'm the CEO here at Astro. A couple of things to share, because clearly as we get into this conversation, we'll hear more about what Astro is doing and where we want to take this. But some things that perhaps my guys in the audience don't know is when I'm not doing this, in terms of the environment, I'm helping to run a rewilding project in the UK, looking after some peat uplands and talking about species conservation. Red squirrels are a huge species that we're looking after and protecting in that environment. And then in Montana, I'm part of a collective that looks after 3,500 hectares of buffalo ranch up in the Pryor Mountains in Montana, where we look after a 300 herd of buffalo. It's all because my wife has Native American history, Native American heritage, so it's all about sustainable farming practices and how we do organic farming, etc., etc. So that's the things that I'm kind of doing the other part of the world. Clearly here, Astro has big plans, and the big plans are basically based on things that I've been able to be part of and see before. So I was lucky to be a member of Sky UK back in the early days when they were going for their carbon neutral recognition and the like. And so we did a huge bunch of stuffs down there. I think we were the first people in the whole of the UK. We changed my entire engineer fleet and the team manager fleet to electric cars. And that was back in 2005, right? So there's people been doing this for an awful long time. We took out a huge amount of cost and electricity from set-top boxes, etc. during that process, and. So it's kind of built from there. And every place that I've been delighted to be part of this real huge initiative within the TV industry to really think more and harder about the environment and the footprint that we leave. So that's why we're here today as Astro, to do the same thing for this fabulous country that is Malaysia.
Thanks, Ewan. We want to hear a lot more about what you have done and what you plan on doing in the future, but we want to go on to the rest of the panelists. Susie, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Susie. I'm a co-founder of Cloth Malaysia. So in short, what I do is that we want to catalyze the plastics, textiles and clothing circular economy in Malaysia. But let me just give it a very simple term to that. It's basically we want to provide you with the simplest solution for your textiles and clothing. Example, on a yearly basis, globally we produce about 1 billion pieces of garments. In Malaysia, this is the data that everyone disposes about 13 kilograms, 13 kilograms of textiles and clothing, as compared to Singapore about 35. That's a lot more. But the thing is that we talk about there's a lot of jingle, there's a lot of awareness about recycling textiles, but our job is to ensure that number one, we provide you with the recycling facilities such as the recycling bins. So we have about 400 fabric recycling bins in Malaysia. We're expanding in Singapore as well. We have about 15. Number two, give you the right solutions to collection as well, because even if you dispose, there's no collection, that's not good. Number three, we tell you the data, what you have disposed with us. And finally, and most importantly, to always educate. Why should you care about keeping fabrics out of landfills? Most importantly, 60% of what we are wearing today are made for polyester, meaning it's based on PET, crude oil base, which is 200 years to decompose if you throw that into the landfill. So that's my job. Thank you. In a nutshell, what does it mean what we've collected so far? We've collected about 4.8 million kilograms. What does it mean? It means we've collected 28 million t-shirts out of the landfill. So thank you, Malaysians.
Thank you so much, Susie, and thank you for what you do. And last but not least, we have Chu from Riverstone. Chu, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you, Naila. Yeah, my name is Chu. I'm the founder and managing director of Riverstone Environmental. We are a small boutique environmental consulting company. So in the past 25 years, I've been working with industry through my consultancy as a trainer as well, to get companies to be in compliance, how to comply with environmental regulation. And now going beyond compliance, I help clients to prepare climate roadmap, climate strategy, to plan for the net zero journey and things like that. And more important now is to break it down into actionable items so that stuff like in Astro, you can implement it in your home, at your workplace, and also the people that you interact with, the importance of climate change issues and things like that. On a personal basis, the last 15 years, I've been a donor to WWF, Kawan of WWF, because I believe they are doing a fantastic job in terms of wildlife conservation for this country. I'm also a member of a Rotary Club, where environment protection is one of the area of focus. So I work with community on that, But more important, you see me as someone who can bring environmental issues into the corporate world to discuss and help companies to see what is their carbon footprint, put data and into actions, and looking at the climate risk in the sustainable and the supply chain as well.
All right, thank you, Chu. So that's our panelists, but not that anyone asked me, but I do want to share a little bit about what I do for the environment. In my professional capacity as a journalist at Astro AWANI, myself and my colleagues, we make a concerted effort to talk about and voice out on issues pertaining to the environment. And in my personal capacity, as Tammy was speaking about earlier, I make a conscious effort to reduce waste, to cut down on fast fashion, as Susie was talking about, to bring recyclable bags, to reduce single-use plastics and whatnot. But that's just me, and that's perhaps what a lot of Astro employees do on an individual, personal basis as well. But I want to start with you, Chu, because you were talking a bit about what you do personally as well. How far do individual consumer actions really go compared to what's being done by companies, corporations on a larger basis, when they are factually, statistically, the biggest producers and emitters of carbon, greenhouse gases? So how do you see this, individual versus industry action and impacts on the environment?
Thank you for the question, Naila. Individual, I see climate change environmental as an aspiration and also sometimes hobby and sometimes it's a passion. We have WWF in the room, and my fellow panelists who are very passionate about this. They are driving, attracting, inspiring young people into doing something, contributing to the environment, and that's really good. But in terms of corporations, they have more resources, capital to invest in the right direction. Yeah, obviously, the sole purpose of company is to give back values to shareholder profits and things like that. Yeah, and with the issues of climate change, we are losing our biodiversity at a very fast, alarming rate. And we see that climate change impacts, extreme weather is coming at a higher frequency, higher intensity. So companies, corporations, financial institutions all have a role to play in order to direct resources in terms of human capital, in terms of technology, in terms of new innovation, into solving an issue that is so big. It's about the existence of our humanitarian and the humanity, and also the ecosystem. So I feel that corporations has a big role to play, and it's not just about big companies taking the lead, but also the SME, also the farming community, and all in the supply chain, logistics company as well, to decarbonize and move towards contributing towards the climate change agenda.
Yeah, thanks, Chu. Ewan, I want to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think is the difference between making sustainability as part of the company mission, like we're seeing with Astro Khas ESG? It's part of Astro's foundation, but not just a matter of fulfilling the quota, of not just fulfilling SDG quotas. What was the difference between the two?
So I think there's the companies that get this right, it becomes part of their purpose. So it's completely correct that companies are here for the benefit of their shareholders and to make money and to grow and to create wealth. But something like Astro, we are the fabric of Malaysian society, right? With 5.5 million homes, 17 million radio listeners, right? That means more than just making money. That means that we have a whole lot of other stakeholders, including the employees that work for us and the government agencies and all. We have a right, we have a duty to actually do the right thing for the environment. And I think that's why we're all here today. I look at some of the things that other people have driven, like in other parts of the world, particularly Sky with the World Wildlife Fund, the rainforest activity that they've done, saving 1 billion trees, and now they're engaged on pulling plastic out of the ocean. When you get this right, when you get this purpose behind, it gives the company another reason to get out of bed in the morning, and it just gives them some sense of pride and purpose about something that's not just about making great TV and radio. So I think it's really super important, and I think that the companies that get this right increasingly, my daughter will only join a company that's doing this stuff. She's 19, and her first question is not how much do you pay me or what's my career, it's where do you stand on the environment. And I think that's super important. As an employer of choice, increasingly companies like Astro have to demonstrate to the next generation that we care and that we want to leave this place as we found it from our ancestors. We want to leave it like that for our children and our grandchildren. I think it's super important.
Bex, I want to hear your thoughts on this as well. I mean, your business is proof that you don't have to pick between one, right? It's not mutually exclusive, profit and sustainability, caring for the environment. You can have both. How do you do this?
Well, I agree to most of what they say. Well, I'm from KL. I'm from the production background also, but I moved to Langkawi 9 years ago, and seeing firsthand how companies and corporates they do what they do and advocate what they do, but there is no end result to that thought. So what we do is we bring that out, like what Cloth Care, they donated 500 t-shirts to us last week. So with that t-shirt, we went down to 200 orphans, we advocate to them, we teach them modules, creative modules, how they can actually impact their entrepreneur skill set, they can, through arts and craft. So to us, it's all about how we are trying to create this safe place for them to learn and also to have this continuity. There's no point just doing something, there's no continuity to it. So with this advocation that we're doing with communities, we went through an 11-month tour last year, nationwide. So we are now advocating 25 different communities, from Perkampungan Orang Asli to single mothers to children, orphans and stuff, to teach them the various modules that we have and converting them to sustainable products and out for retail. So we are already in Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, and now getting into Italy, and hoping to be creating a Malaysian product out of all these efforts together. So also our tagline, together we can. Eka means one, actually, literally. So we are trying many ways, working with many possible people. With WWF also, we worked with them last year, Advocate Jalil, where we did a whole series of workshops with them. So all of the shoppers that are on there, all of the applications, we give out free workshops and things like that. So I think it's important to see continuity as well, as in line to this whole sustainable agenda.
Yeah. Lastly, Susie, what do you have to say to not just businesses, but particularly smaller businesses that are perhaps not so keen, not so convinced on jumping the bandwagon, that still see sustainability and environmental issues as a cause, not as something that's part of their purpose and their foundation? What do you have to say? Perhaps some advice.
Frankly speaking, I am very proud of Malaysians, is because when I first started, I thought that Malaysians don't really care about environment. But you know what? I was wrong. It's only because, right? Like, okay, I'll give example, right? Cloth emailed us at cloth2clarity.com. I have like auntie, makcik. I have like public listed companies. I have global companies. I have like school children who are emailing us like, we want to be part of the movement. It's either A, they want to go to the factory, our partner recycling factory, Australian, by the way, they are second largest Australia, so we're very lucky to have them here in Malaysia. So asking us how can we promote you on social media, where are your one out of your 400 fabric bins, and a lot others. The point is that we always feel that we Malaysians are not doing well. I don't think so, because you know what, Cloth does operate in other countries. We travel to other countries to stalk how waste management and recycling is done. We rank very good. So how do you encourage people like small businesses, whatever not? I think that's gradual. I think that's inherent. We have vast majority of course, public sector companies in Malaysia are spearheading this, part of GRI, Global Reporting Initiative, Bursa Malaysia. And yeah, we have SDG as well. We are doing very great, and I believe that everyone will be joining the bandwagon soon. Guys, please remember, SDG was just launched in 2015. We are now in 2023. It wasn't long ago. In 2012, SDG was called MDG. At that time, the pillars was different. So I think we Malaysians, we should be very proud. Thank you.
Thanks, Susie. So Susie seems to think that there is a gradual movement towards sustainable actions, but it might take some time. Zara, what do you have to say? How are Malaysian businesses, corporations adapting to sustainability, environmental compliance? Are we moving fast enough?
That's a loaded question. I think we are on the pathway. So at WWF, we work with the oil palm companies. We work with the timber and paper companies as well. And I think we are seeing a big shift towards sustainability. We are also working with the financial institutions, and I think it's really important to point out that Bursa Malaysia, Bank Negara, they are very on board this journey to sustainability, and they are joined by other financial institutions as well. So there's actually a group called the Joint Committee on Climate Change. So that's 21 financial institutions in Malaysia, together with Bank Negara and Bursa, who are looking at how to reduce the risks from climate change to the sustainable industry. So yes, we are definitely on that journey. Oh, and I wanted to point out as well, for example, Maybank, they have committed to no deforestation, no peat, and no exploitation. So that's very good news for our forests. And CIMB has also committed to no coal as well. So that's very important for climate change, obviously, as well.
Thanks, Zara. Now, going back to what Ewan shared before this, I think you pointed out something really important about what your daughter had said, right? Being 19 years old, it's not so much about the pay, it's not so much about what the job is like, but is sustainability a part of the company's purpose? And that's something common that we hear from the younger generation, right? That they seem to think adults are not taking environmental issues seriously enough. They're not taking this climate crisis seriously enough. I mean, we're seeing floods, we're seeing extreme weather changes. Ewan, what do you think we have to do? What must be done in order to regain and rebuild their trust that yes, we are taking matters into hand, we are taking climate change seriously?
I think it's all about putting your money where your mouth is. So, as we were talking about before, you said, well, what can one individual do? Well, you can help to educate. Yeah. Even if your individual action isn't super important, in the scheme of things, the whole whether you recycle your waste or whether you do composting and all that kind of good stuff, it's sending a message not only to your own, children, but also therefore to the wider base. And you have to hope that through education and through awareness and through demonstrating the right thing is that the candle becomes a wildfire. And I think that's the duty of all of us, every person that's thinking about this. I hear quite a lot of people say in news, even if the UK went completely green, that's only 2% of the total amount of greenhouse gases. Yeah, but it's 2%. It's 2%. So do what you can and hope that the other people are going to follow the lead. So I think that's why in Astro, we have these 5 ESG pillars that we're looking after. I think in response to the environment that's doing things ourselves, you're in a building that is powered largely by solar, and we've saved getting on for about 1,000 tons of CO2 at the moment, It's making sure that people know that you're under lighting that costs half of what it used to cost because we've invested in LED lighting. We've just commissioned another one down the road to our second site to do exactly the same thing. The packaging that's going into the set-top boxes from about 4 weeks time, the packaging that we'll start using has got 50% less plastic in. It's about educating that everybody in their job, in their home life, does as much as they personally can, because that resonates. And I think if you look at some of the companies that are perhaps further along the road than us, Sky will tell you, Foxtel will tell you that it actually, as an employer brand, when you've got that kind of attitude, that your children are more proud about who you are and who you work for, and that other children that are coming towards you are happier to come and work for you, because there is this, it's not just about making money, it's about sustainability for the planet.
Thanks, Bex. I want to get your thoughts on this as well. Going back to this view shared by the younger generation about us having to be more accountable leaders, right? That says a lot about consumer trends as well, not for the younger generation, but society at large. I mean, they're demanding more sustainability, more green initiatives from corporations. What does this say about consumer market trends about sustainability?
Well, I think definitely there's a huge leap in consumerism when it comes to sustainability. I mean, there are bigger brands that are doing high-end sustainable products that are coming into Malaysia also, that are also creating that extra awareness, like Fat Tag and things like that. Their bags go up to $3,000-4,000. Again, it's not about the money, but also to be creating that platform, I guess. So I think in terms of what we do in ECA is also to be creating that fun into this sustainability bit. Sometimes it may sound a bit serious for the younger gens to be part of. So our goal in this direction is to be creating all that fun that we can gather, at the same time to be advocating all the strengths, so that we need to work with as many corporations as we can to be creating this kind of ground for this consumerism part of the pledge. Yeah, that's what we're looking at.
Thanks, Bex. Now, apart from consumer trends, apart from appealing to the younger market, Chu, apart from incentives for companies, what do you see is the responsibility for companies to not just look at this? I mean, we were talking earlier about, just merely fulfilling the SDG quota, right? I mean, the younger generation is saying this is not just a quota, this is a must, this is a need, this is a collective responsibility as a whole, especially for industries to act more drastically in line with what's going on with climate change. I mean, are incentives still working for companies, or is there a need to implement perhaps more drastic action towards those that are not towing the line in sustainability and green initiatives?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, incentive only gives up to a certain extent. Like what Ian says, you have to internalize this need to protect our environment. Yeah, to do business in a responsible way, be a responsible neighbor, community where you operate your business, and to be responsible. How do you extract the natural resources that goes into the ingredients of the production that we use, the clean water and the clean air as well. Now, natural resources is not free. Yeah, so we always see incentive as what government gives us as the grant, but little does most corporations know that outside the fence, yeah, outside the window, that is the environment, and what's inside our factory is what our resources will be most channeled to. Yeah, so there is a need to balance that incentive for government, for companies and individuals to go to the right behavior. Yeah, to purchase the more greener energy saving devices at home, yeah, that we use, and also at company. Yeah, so procurement purchasing has to look at the embodied carbon, yeah, emissions from vehicles, yeah, and also from production machinery as well. Yeah, so and there's also a need for carrot and stick, yeah, where the regulation must come in. Yeah, and this is already happening outside of Malaysia, where there is a carbon tax in certain countries regime where the more you emit emissions, yeah, you will be penalized. So for companies that is operating carbon efficiently, they will be rewarded, yeah, rewarded in a way that they have carbon trading that they can gain money from. Yeah, so it should be a balance of that. Yeah, and with all this, the basis of that should be what is the corporate governance in terms of the climate issues. Why does the company see itself in the future? Yeah, because this has to be internalized. So incentives get us that far. Government regulations to force company to declare what is their emissions data, the transparency of that. Yeah, versus the economic instruments in terms of tax incentive, in terms of penalizing companies that's emitting more. Yeah, so Malaysian companies has to be prepared for all this that's coming. Besides, yeah, preparing themselves for the climate, the extreme weathers, floods, heat stress, heat wave, yeah, water stress that is will be affecting the supply chain, and all this at a country level, it will affect our food security, our energy security as well. So we have to start this with multiple instruments, the economic instruments, incentives, as well as regulation. That's my personal view about this.
Yeah, it's interesting you pointed out the carrot versus stick approach. Zara, you were speaking earlier about your work with several companies, about how some big companies have taken a big step towards sustainable and green initiatives. We're speaking to some Astro employees that perhaps have some questions of their own, some concerns perhaps, but when you're working with these companies, what are some common concerns being raised by employees when they're looking at their companies taking steps towards sustainability? Perhaps they have some concerns, perhaps some staff members might see this as a loss or as a big change, as an adaptation that they're perhaps not ready to make.
I think one of my favorite quotes is that there is no business on a dead market. No business on a dead planet. And I think once you think about that, it becomes clear. You know, it's not just about profits, and it's not just about just doing your business. You have to understand that you're part of the wider ecosystem. So employees, I think we've heard from companies that have taken this journey, and employees actually are happier on this journey because, you know, as Ewan said, they have more respect. They're better engaged with what the company is doing. They have more respect from their children. And I think also it's also important to note that when companies are taking this journey, it also impacts employee health as well. So in certain industries, you know, there certain practices might be detrimental to employee health. So when you're doing the right things, that is actually better for your employees.
Now we're talking about taking responsibility, being accountable, and surely that starts at home. You and Astro being a non-extractive business, where do you see our biggest impact on climate change?
So we're going to be, we've said that we're going to be completely carbon neutral by 2040. But as you say, because we're not extractive, there's a whole load of stuff that we can do ourselves internally, whether that's turning lights off or it's doing more solar activity, whether it's helping our customers to save money, whether it's reducing the cost and the amount of non-recyclable stuff that goes into our set-top boxes, etc., etc. That's all good. That's all good. Kind of taken as read. I think the real place that Astro can play wider than that is in our ESG pillar, Voice for Good. So we have this huge audience. Yeah, we are regularly talking to the vast majority of Malaysia and Malaysians. So our duty is to educate, bring awareness to things like the AWANI X Action program, to really focus on and to bring to the forefront these topics and issues. We do 8,000 public service announcement hours every single year, and we're committed to do 5% more every year. Why? Because we want to get out to as many people as possible, some messages, some of the key things we heard earlier this morning about what people themselves can do to celebrate the successes that are happening, personal, home, small business, big business, government, to celebrate the successes, to bring more awareness to the fact that this is one planet, we are all in this together, yeah? Carbon emissions are a real big problem for us. Climate change, you can see it on the news, on AWANI and other places every day. This is serious. And I think as us for Astro, apart from making sure our own house is in order in terms of minimising our footprint, it's about getting as many people on side as possible through demonstrating passion and success.
Thanks, Ewan. Now, we're talking a lot about what we're doing on, a larger scale. Why is it that you do what you do in your professional capacity? But I want to go back to Susie because, you're very passionate and you have I would say, a very optimistic view towards Malaysians and how we're very passionate about the environment. But I think I want to, and the audience as well, we want to hear a little bit about why is it that you do what you do? Because a lot of us, I think, we care for the environment, but it's not so easy to make that our life purpose, right? So why is it that you've grown so passionate towards this, and perhaps there's something that's happened, or why is it that you've made this your career?
Oh, that's a very interesting one. I mean, I'll just give you an overview. I mean, I graduated with Bachelor Accounting. I don't even like it, so I was in an audit firm. I was an external auditor in EY, Ernst & Young Chartered Accountants. I didn't like it. And then I went to stockbroking firm. I didn't like it. And then after that, I applied for a job, many. So all jobs that I was offered in 2004 was all about internal audit, like back to audit firms, Pricewaterhouse, whatever not. Only one job that gives me like a neutral one was Media Prima Berhad to work with the CEO at TV7, and back then, and then after that, he was made a group CEO. So I learned about everything, and then after 5 years, I was very involved with brands and also sales, and I'm like, I like brand, I like sales, and along the way, I was in media, so I can, just like you, I meet everyone, right? Like, blah, 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 and then I went to the launch of MDG, now it's called SDG in 2012. I met the keynote speakers, and then she said that I'm a Dutch, I'm based in Shanghai. This is made for recycled plastic bottles. I'm like, are you sure? You're not joking, right? No, I'm not. So, and then after that, I learned about sustainable fibers, and I see the potential. So I was reading about National Green Technology Policy 2009 in Malaysia. So, so some of the clauses talks about, a little bit about sustainable fibers, but more into recycling. So I see the new future is that at that time, there was no net carbon zero coin yet, yeah? And then I struck the deal, and I went to Shanghai, never been to Shanghai, come back, and I'm like, we create an ecosystem or model. And then, but it was half-baked because, Malaysians don't understand the importance of sustainable fibers, in which I hope I can speak more about why we need to wear sustainable fibers. Along the way, I found out that, let's not talk about sustainable fibers lah. Malaysians need to start recycling. We need to put up a lot of fabric recycling bins than just have about your jingles or PSA about recycling. So I fall in love with that. I see, I'm an accounting graduate, right? I see money in there as well. Like you talk, no money, circular economy, people. If there's no money in it, so there's no value to it, right? It's about creating a new economy. So that's when there's value in it. I believe in it. There's environmental impact, the social impact as well. That one of it we donated 500 pieces of t-shirt recently to bags, right? To the I see a holistic approach of something, and I love it. And most importantly, I love what I'm doing because I get to meet all types of people. All, right? From policymakers to corporates, communities, anything. I love it.
Thanks so much for sharing, Susie. Now we're coming towards the end of our session today, but I do want to give the opportunity for everyone to share a little bit about, perhaps we can take some time to reflect on what we said about becoming more accountable, becoming more responsible, especially when we're answering to the younger generation who are demanding for more. Zara, perhaps we can start with you. What kind of Malaysia, what kind of planet do you want to leave behind for the younger generation?
Maybe it's too much to ask, but I really hope that our younger generation can enjoy the best of both worlds. And by that I mean the world that our parents grew up in, where Malaysia was extremely green. They could go out and they could see species in their backyard, and they could, fish in the streams. But also, we've come a long way since then. As a nation, we have much better technology. Our healthcare is amazing. And I want our next generation to be able to enjoy both of those things, right? I think a lot of people, when they think about environmental conservation, they think that, we're supposed to go back to just living in the trees. That's very much not what we want. We just want people to be able to sustain their way of living, a good way of living now and into the future for future generations.
Thanks, Zara. Now, Bex, briefly, some thoughts you want to share, Malaysia that you want to leave behind for the next generation?
Well, I agree with a lot of things and also resonate to what she just said. I think having the balance, doing what we're able to do today, and also having a safe area. I keep saying safe because in Langkawi, we see gray areas. So I think and hope that we are able to have safe areas to expand, as well as keeping what is important for the future. Yeah.
Chu, what kind of world do you want to leave behind for the next generation?
Certainly one that the future generation will enjoy is what Zara and Bex have said. But more importantly, I think is we know that climate change has already caused the temperature to rise more than 1.2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial temperature. So like it or not, the climate extreme weathers is coming, and it's going to be more intense and things like that. So I hope Malaysia will be one safe haven, where Malaysians will not suffer the impacts, and also outside of Malaysia, those countries and communities that's living in countries that they have no choice, they'll be impacted. I hope to see more corporate leaders, taking decisions at board level, at company level, whether it's SME or large companies. We all have a role to play. To put the resources, channel the finance to the right places in order to help Malaysia and the world to transition into a more just, climate just world, where it is a better world for everyone, and we have no planet B. To sum it up.
Thanks so much, Chu. Susie, what kind of future do you imagine for Malaysia?
My hope is that every one of us in this room, right, like in the future, if you don't recycle, you tell people you don't recycle your textiles, it's like a breaking news. It's like, why don't you do that? So by having that, it's all in the mind, right? Like, so that's why I want, like, oh my God, you don't do. So in a nutshell, your fear is embarrassment. It can be anything. Your motivating factor can be anything. So that's what I want to live. It's like so normal for you to not recycle. It's like breaking news if you don't recycle. In your world, you call it.
I'll be sure to report on that in 50 years' time. Last but not least, Ewan, what kind of Malaysia do you want to leave behind? What kind of world do you want to leave behind for the next generation?
So I think I can't but agree with everything that's been said. So back to the first point that we were making. My wife is Native American background, hence the buffalo. And there's a Native American proverb which goes something like, "We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children." And I think that it's incumbent on all of us that we know what the situation is. We know that if we don't change, this plane is going into the mountain, our planet is is not going to be here. And my hope is that through all the various actions that we can do in Astro, wider than Astro, both internally ourselves and helping to educate and helping to bring messages and get people more on side, is that the next generation of people are as passionate about saving our planet and as keen and as committed as these 4 people next to me. That's what we have to achieve. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ewan, and thanks so much to all our panelists, everyone in this room, and everyone tuning in at home. Thank you so much. I hope you got a little bit of what we shared today, a little bit of inspiration and something that you can take away, and how you can make this planet a better place, not just hoping on larger actions, but as what we've shared, everyone can make a difference. So we hope that you got a little bit, you got something out of this today, and thank you so much once again to our panelists for sharing your insights, and have a happy Earth Day. I hope we can take better actions, bigger actions into making this place a better place for the next generation. Thanks so much. I'm Naila.
Thank you.